The flag flying above number 10 Downing Street, the British Prime Minister's residence, has been lowered to half-mast. David Cameron was quick to pay tribute to his predecessor, calling her a Great Britain.
Today we lost a great leader, a great Prime Minister and a great Britain. Margaret Thatcher didn't just lead our country, she saved our country. And we should never forget that the odds were stacked against her. She was the shopkeeper's daughter from Grantham who made it all the way to the highest office in the land.
People have been visiting Mrs Thatcher's London residence to pay their respects. Supporters laid flowers and left notes addressed to the Iron Lady. The opposition leader in Britain, Ed Miliband, whose father was a famous Marxist, offered his respects.
We disagreed with much of what she did as a Labour Party, but we can disagree and also hugely respect her extraordinary achievements and her extraordinary personal strength.
The controversial life of Baroness Margaret Hilda Thatcher continues to divide the land she led for 11 years. Sombre plans for a formal funeral and high church eulogies are being defiantly rejected by some Britons in favour of impromptu celebrations and street parties.
Thatcher's death, I think, is a celebration around the world. Millions of people know she started a legacy, and that legacy was turning over public services and starting the greed for the bankers. And I think everyone knows it started in Britain, and she continued that across her legacy.
That woman made my youth a misery. I think that she was to blame for most of the ills in society, and most of the things that poor people and ill people are now being blamed for were her fault.
I'm celebrating the fact that Margaret Thatcher is dead today, and I'm here to celebrate with everyone else, symbolically, to just to say everything she stood for, I'm opposed to.
One of Mrs Thatcher's biggest battles was with the mine workers. She aimed to break the union and shut down uncompetitive pits. In the coalfields of Yorkshire 30 years on, the miners haven't forgotten and refuse to forgive what they see as the death of their communities and the birth of a crisis in deprivation, drugs and alcohol.
You're not supposed to speak ill of the dead, but from the phone calls I've had this morning, I would imagine there'd be quite a lot of people in the mining communities will not be shedding a tear today. They'll be raising a drink and toasting a passing and saying good riddance.
Among her peers in Westminster, the tone is more forgiving. The man who succeeded her as Prime Minister, John Major.
Oh, I think as peacetime Prime Minister, very high. Very high indeed. I mean... How high? Well, it's difficult to make a judgment. In the 20th century, I can't see a peacetime Prime Minister who will have a higher reputation than she will.
And this from the man who many say adopted some of her policies to get the rival Labour Party elected in 1997, Tony Blair.
There's very few political leaders that get a chance and have the character and the ability to change not just the political landscape of their country, but the political landscape of the world.
Meanwhile, around the UK, the celebrating of Mrs Thatcher's demise continues. From Downing Street to the Shires, the Iron Lady, it seems, splits the country as much in death as she did in life. John Terret, Al Jazeera.